With us this morning are two people, Gaina Staldman and Ann Herzberg Adler, who are both from Council of Children at Risk.
It's a not-for-profit organization. It serves Rock Island and Scott County, and its purpose is to get rid of child abuse.
Okay.
It's been around since about 1976, and incorporated since then and changing all the time to serve the needs in this area. It was occurring in different places in the United States, but it did spring up within this community in a spontaneous form. People were finding a need to coordinate the efforts of various agencies because families who have a pattern of abuse often are being served by different agencies, and that was the impetus to get things started.
The council's made up of community members, members from the community, and it's funded by the United Way. I think that's
United Way, private donations, and we're also the Quad City chapter for the National Committee for the Prevention of Child Abuse.
Okay.
I'm on the board. This will be my 9th year on the board. There was a 2-year hiatus, a bylaw hiatus, and I'm back
really?
again. So I'm recycled.
Oh, okay, good. Okay,
It
very
was easy to come back to because I enjoy the idea that if we really can do something, we can stop the cycle of child abuse, because child abusers breed child abusers who breed child abusers.
Okay.
People often ask, what are the conditions, what kinds of ingredients do you need for child abuse? And they're simply an adult, a child, and a crisis. But if the adult was abused as a child, which almost 100% of child abusers were, that's a very potent ingredient.
Oh, really?
That's when you look at different people under the same kinds of stress, and some people can roll with it, and some people
just really cannot do that.
can't take any amount of stress. And then the child has to be perceived by the parent as different. Sometimes if the child were the result of an unwanted pregnancy or a difficult birth, you can see how that perception would happen. But the child could as easily look like a child in a commercial on TV, a beautiful child, but it reminds the parent of someone that abused them when they were young. And so that child's perceived as different. And the crisis isn't anything that most people would necessarily call a crisis. It could be the car breaking down, which isn't fun, but most people don't abuse their children when the car breaks down. Yeah, and so those are the 3 ingredients. It's completely anonymous. You don't have to give your name, and it's 24 hours a day. And I don't know many people I can call at 3 in the morning and not have to give a fairly good explanation in a few days.
Why you're calling at 3 in the morning?
That's right.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, we have the phone number.
In the area of prevention, the public education through the Speakers Bureau, and we have workshops for professionals and media. We do have 8 paid staff members, but we rely very heavily on our volunteers as well. The helpline is the main thrust, but then we have things like we developed the resource of the network, which lists all the parenting groups available to parents. And if you want to improve your skills, or if you need to find a group of parents who have children perhaps with a similar problem or just a similar age group, the network is a resource that we've developed for that. We have some other areas we work in. We have treatment teams, and we're working very hard to involve the community in preventing child abuse. We service Scott and Rock Island County. We're happy to answer any phone calls on the helpline, but it's still a local call within Scott and Rock Island.
Okay.
Right, and that's our area, really. Yeah, the number at the council is 764-7017. But if you don't have a pencil handy, call the helpline and they'll be glad to give it to you.
It's all,
But that's just business hours.
okay, that's just business
Right,
hours. Okay.
right. We don't act as a referral agency, actually, but we coordinate efforts among a lot of people like Bethany Home and various agencies here in the Quad Cities, all the ones that are involved in helping families and children.
Okay, very good. Okay.
That's right, although anyone can report,
Yeah.
and people can report anonymously.
Sure.
It's best to report if you feel the child's in real danger. If you think the child isn't necessarily in real danger, but that the family's under a lot of stress, personally, if you can find some common interest and befriend a member of the family, that's very helpful. But if you think the child's in danger, you can report it.
And report it to?
I have some numbers written down.
What?
There are two different ones. In Illinois, the 800 number is 1-800-252-2873. On the Iowa side, you need to call 1-800-362-2178. These are in the blue pages of your phone book,
They're in the blue
under
pages.
the governmental offices section.
Under governmental offices section for the state?
For the state,
Okay,
right.
okay.
That's right.
Okay, so we'll look under there.
Department of Family and Children and Family Services in Illinois, Department of Human Services in Iowa. Right.
Okay.
But if there's some question in your mind about whether it's a reportable offense, you can always call the helpline and
Just ask.
tell them how you feel and ask them what they would advise, or call the council.
Okay.
Another way of defining it too is the lack of warmth and affection and the supervision and understanding that's necessary for a child to develop the kinds of feelings about himself or herself that Gaina mentioned.
Just a second.
I was thinking that some of the viewers may have noticed in their churches or synagogues, the Prevention Sabbath was the very first weekend. In fact, it actually began March 31st of this month, and a lot of congregations have been kind enough to carry some of the material and help us.
Yeah. Even had
let
some
people know
sermons
it.
on it.
That's great.
Sure, they invite us out.
Yeah,
Good.
Yeah.
yeah.
Good. Okay. Good.
You just have to look at it in the context of their family. If the family's doing the best they can under the circumstances, they might need some real assistance, clothing,
some
and
help rather
right.
than.
But if the family seems to be financially comfortable and the child is dirty and not cared for and wearing shabby clothes, then you have to question whether the child's being cared for properly.
Okay, the other one, the fourth one was.
It's more underreported than any other area. And it's the kind of thing that shows up later on. Oftentimes, prostitutes report an early history of sexual abuse. And you see it in substance abuse, too. All kinds of child abuse feeds into adult crime and juvenile delinquency and even mental illness. But prostitution and substance abuse, particularly with sexual abuse.
Good.
The foster parents have been having a retraining session this weekend. In fact, today is the second and last day of it.
Okay.
And the council itself, we're sponsoring a baseball game this afternoon.
Want to come back to that.
Okay.
Really want to come back to that. But let's take a break.
This afternoon, there's a ball game at John O'Donnell Stadium, and everyone is invited. If you can pick up a ticket at one of the ticket outlets around the cities, it'll be free of charge for you and your family.
And Ann Adler, who is a member of the board of the CCR and also a member of the committee that is putting together No Hitters Day. So thank you both for joining us this morning.
We have the legal and financial responsibility for the work of the staff, the Council on Children at Risk. We oversee what they do. We initiate a lot of activities. Those are the main thrusts of what we do.
Okay, how big is the board?
18 people.
Professionals, non-professionals, a wide scope?
A pretty wide scope. It's a professional board in general, but we have people from lots of different areas.
Okay, how, we'll take you as a textbook case.
Right.
How'd you come to be a member of the board?
When I moved to Moline 10 years ago, I had worked in Alaska in child abuse. I have my graduate work in psychology, and I was very interested in the Parent Aid program. And I was reading the newspaper here. I had very young children, and I read about their Parent Aid program, and I rushed right down and I said, tell me more about it. And then I told them a lot about what we'd done in Alaska. That was how I connected up with the council, and at the time it was better for me to join the board than to work at a job, because I wanted to be at home with my children as much as I could be. One thing that we do, and then Roy can fill you in on the clearinghouse and the kinds of things that have been in place for a long time, mostly federal, is that we're a chapter of the National Committee for the Prevention of Child Abuse. And that is a very loose network of chapters throughout the country. And there is information trading on what works where, and we see what other people are doing, and they see what we're doing, and try to adapt it to local circumstances. There's also a lot of data gathering so that we can see what's going on there. But I'm thinking about the clearinghouse. I'm thinking about.
Now we're to No Hitters Day, which
Okay.
is Saturday, the 26th of April, 1986.
That's right.
And what is No Hitters Day?
Okay. A little history.
Sure,
Little
a lot
bit.
of history if you like.
3 years ago, Kansas City, Kansas, the first No Hitters Day at a Royals game. And a group from the community wanted to stop family violence. And they felt connecting a project with baseball was a logical move. It's a national pastime. Unless you play for Billy Martin, it's a nonviolent sport.
Or unless you play for the Cards in the 7th game of the World Series.
That's right. That's right. Then you get traded. But unless you do that, it's a relatively nonviolent sport. And they felt it would get the message to millions of families in a very gentle way. And the messages that the people originally in Kansas City wished to convey hasn't changed much since, was first of all to promote an awareness that there is child abuse, there is family violence in the community. Then to make people aware of their own capacity to be violent. It's something most of us wish to ignore. Then offering alternatives to rage and pointing out places in the community you can go, and eventually hoping to make individuals less violent so that child abuse would be lessened, possibly eliminated. That was how it started. The following year, 125 communities joined and had their own No Hitters Day in their own local stadiums throughout the United States. And last year, the Quad Cities had its first No Hitters Day at John O'Donnell Stadium. It's always the last Saturday in April. And we had 4,000 people. It was a beautiful evening. It was a lot of fun. We're going to have it this coming Saturday. People need to remember to get their tickets ahead of time because you can get free tickets at various Quad City area businesses and restaurants that admit the family to John O'Donnell Stadium. Once there, they'll have balloons, free balloons that the Officers' Wives Club will give them. There'll be a lot of free family-type prizes. And it's just going to be a lot of fun. There's a good pre-game show, and we really appreciate the fact that you're going to be there. And Tom Cornelis.
I wasn't going to mention that, but...
They're going to be giveaways and balloons. The Girl Scouts are going to launch balloons. We have a lot of things that aren't quite finalized, so we don't want to give them away. That's right. But it will all be a family orientation. Things can get very serious when you're talking about teenage sexual offenders. No Hitters Night is a fun night, and we're just all going to come with our families and relax and enjoy the evening. Hope that it's a shutout. The Angels won last year. They're playing the Peoria Cubs this year, right? And we're hoping for 2 in a row. We wanted a no-hitter last year, didn't get it, but we're hoping this year it'll be a no-hitter because it is No Hitters Day.
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
That's right. Evening game, 7 p.m.
7 p.m.
April
everything
26th.
starts.
If you don't find your free ticket at a local business or restaurant, the Quad City Times on their community page, either tomorrow or Tuesday, is going to have a cutout ticket. And if you don't see that or you don't take the Times, CCR has plenty of tickets that you can pick up.
Oh, okay. And we need to fill the stadium. Get all
That's
sorts of
right.
people down here.
4,000 last year, and if everybody brings a friend, it'll...
That's excellent.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Any idea?
Because it is generally the last Saturday in April. Hopefully you get the best weather then. And that's still within Child Abuse Prevention Month, which is the whole month of April.
Oh, so April is Child Abuse Prevention
Month,
Oh,
right.
well, that's an
Right.
appropriate time to talk about it as well.
There's not a clear-cut answer. In fact, there's a good phone number. Do you know it, the helpline phone number?
757-8555.
757-8555. Okay, what do people get when they call that?
That's a warm line. They call up and they get trained counselors. And if they're worried about their own actions and their families, they can talk to someone who's trained to listen and say, maybe you should take a little easy here, or maybe you're expecting a little too much of your children, or sounds like things are hard, or, that kind of thing, because it's different in every case. This
Nice.
Saturday, April 26th,
Starting
7
at 7
p.m.
o'clock.
Tremendous pregame at 7 p.m. And a game after that, the Angels and the Cubs.
I'm looking forward to finding out what we're all going to be doing. So be there. Anyway, No Hitters Day. It's
No Hitters Day.
nationwide,
Right.
sponsored locally by the Council on Children
Council
at
on
Risk.
Children at Risk. Right. And we're having help from the Officers' Wives Club out at the Arsenal, passing out balloons. We've had an awful lot of help from area merchants donating prizes. A lot of help from the management of John O'Donnell Stadium.
So get your
Yeah.
tickets, and as they say on The Price is Right,
Free,
come on
free.
down. Well, thank you both for joining us. We'll see you Saturday night, and hope to see you Saturday night as well, and next Sunday right here on Focus. Bye-bye.